Hello and welcome to the Corona Yoga Challenge. Today is day 184 and today we are looking at Sthira and Sukha, which are, it's like kind of philosophy in yoga. It's one of Patanjali's sutras, and this is like one of the most important ways to do your yoga practice. So the interpretation of what these words mean matter quite a lot. So one of the things is that the Sthira is the strength, steadiness, a sense of being grounded, and the Sukha is a sense of ease and openness, and that these two sit together. So it's a little bit like the yin yang. It's not like you're trying to get loads of strength, and it's not like you're trying to find loads of ease. You're trying to find that easy balance between the two. So obviously this, you can start little things and you can go right the way out to big things. But what I thought I would do is I would do a pose for you just now and have a little look at how that almost fluctuates and balances kind of actively through a pose. So this is dancer pose. Oh, let me move this up a little bit. So dancer pose is where one hand's up, one leg's up, and then we tend to come forwards. And as we come forwards, there's often a feeling of lack of steadiness, lack of sthira. So if I come here for a minute, I'm like, oh, too far out. And then I breathe out, come down through my feet. That gives me the steadiness. From that steadiness, then I can find my way into that feeling of ease. So that is that kind of dynamic movement. I think I did that too quickly almost. It's like every little bit of it matters. I wonder if there's a better pose. I'm further down. Let me think. No, I'm just going to go with the same. So let's do it again. I'm going to stay lower down. So right now I feel somewhat steady in my feet, but you can see there's a little bit of movement in my legs. So I'm still kind of finding sthira, steadiness here. So if I go too far, too fast, I completely come out of any sense of steadiness. I might have a great time, but I've completely lost for a minute that sense of steadiness. You see, you can see it in my body when I start to do a proper shugo, that I've gone so far out into the pose that I'm no longer steady, and I can no longer find the ease either, because I've gone out and into something beyond where I am in that moment. But if I go slower into it, so I might still have a little wobble like that, but I can come back to the steadiness, back to feeling of ease. I can come out a little bit, out a little bit, out a little bit. She goes too far, she comes right out of it. But do you see, we can slowly come into it where we're negotiating down through the feet, grounded, out and open, gentle, keep it moving, so that all the time there's almost like this interplay. It's quite hard to actually show that because my mouth is doing one thing, my body's doing another. But it's almost, hopefully you can see from what I've done, the little moments where I go out too far and I've lost both Sthira and Sukha almost. Like I can find a much happier place to be with that. Another really good way of working with this, so obviously you can work in every single pose just like that. So I'm sitting on the floor like this at the moment. I'm very comfortable. I feel quite grounded, quite settled through my hips. This is just a place where I'm happy sitting. But if I decided, oh, this isn't good enough yoga, I'm doing a video, I need to do something more dramatic so people know I'm good at yoga. Great idea, huh? So I might decide, right, I need to put this foot out here a bit more, and this one needs to come back, and then this thigh should really go down, and then I should be lifted up more. Okay, so now I'm feeling totally uncomfortable, and I feel like there's tension through my leg, and I'm all wobbly through here, and nothing feels any good. I feel quite grounded, but I definitely don't feel open. If I go too much like, okay, right, oh, I'm kind of really bored of doing this, so I'll just kind of settle back. So this is me kind of like, so this is me going too much into Sukha now. So I've gone into like, oh, well, I don't think I'll bother really trying. This is good enough, isn't it? So that sense that we can go too far either way, and that ideal place is where we feel grounded, where we feel open, where we feel quite relaxed to be in our own space, and in our own space so that we can open out to where we are. So that's just two poses, but then obviously we come into how we breathe. So when we breathe in, we breathe out. And those two movements have so many different characters within them and ways that they can happen. So that breath can be that easy breath in and easy breath out. It can be like a kind of not very engaged one when we're focusing very strongly. It can be a tense breath where we're a little bit held. So when you're doing breathing practice, can you find a place where you feel that sense of knowing where you are, or knowing that where that feeling of being settled in yourself? And can you also bring into that enough of that Sukha idea, the easiness, the openness, so that we have got both of those going on at the same time? And with the breath, it's probably easier to focus on the Sthira and the Sukha, the ease bit, because our breathing tends to respond well to that feeling of ease. The only difference would be that sometimes you might be able to get a more effective breath if we get into a little bit of the sense of how does the body work and can we enjoy and move with that. So that little bit where we breathe out and there's that little further breath out, that is that little bit of Sthira, that little bit of strength, that little bit of grounding that allows us to extend just a tiny little bit more without losing that sense of ease. And then obviously another aspect is how we then go out into the world. So you have a job to do, you've not got quite enough time. Do you harden up, tighten up, get it done, go really into your Sthira bit, lose any sense of ease, get really ratty with somebody because somebody else hasn't done something the way it needed to be done? Or are you able to settle back into the, I've got too much to do, I can't do it all? I promise you, I don't do that all the time. Sometimes I totally go into like, gonna get it done mode, absolutely. And sometimes I go into like, oh well, whatever, can't do it. So just take a chill pill. But in life, how can you use those two concepts? And I made myself some other little notes, so because there's different words for what Sthira and Sukha can be interpreted as, which I quite like. Even the interpretation of words changes how you can work with it. So other ones for Sthira are stability, strength, commitment, grounding and steadiness. So I think probably commitment is the one that is least true to my feeling of the interpretation of the words. I think more that steadiness, grounding, kind of the ground where we are. And when I think of the yin yang, I tend to think of the dark side for that, like kind of grounded on the floor. And then that openness being like the light side, the white, which is the openness, ease, contentment. Another one is space. And I can't read my own handwriting here. Really, no idea. Oh, fluidity. So fluidity, not so sure. So I would go with the other words. I think that the kind of the light and the dark is quite good, the strong and the open. And seeing where you find yourself within those balances. And if you can take that onto your mat, into poses, whether you can take that into your breath, if you can take that out into the world so that you can use that as a helpful way of considering things. And this makes me very much think of a friend called Lucy. And I can't remember what I was talking about, but it was some issue that I had going on. I was like, I don't know what to do. And she said, well, think of it as velvet and steel. That you need the velvet, the soft on the outside, but the inside there's a really strong steadiness. And I'm not quite sure I've got to steel or velvet maybe, but I still really like the idea of these somewhat opposing forces that we could use as concepts to work with situations that sometimes present us some challenges. So I hope you find that useful. I hope you have a good week of playing with your Sthira and your Sukha. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing this little moment of Sthira and Sukha.